There are several places in Italy and the Mediterranean area which have also yielded grooved or incised bones. J. de Noor discovered specimens engraved in a way similar to those of Saint-Prest, mentioned in a previous video, in a collection of bones taken from Arno River Valley in Italy. Among them were Elephas meridionalis and Rhinoceros etruscus, animals whose grooved bones were also discovered at Saint-Prest. These were attributed to the Astian period of the Pliocene. This would give us a date of some 3 to 4 million years old. However, it is possible that the bones could be as young as 1.3 million years old when Elephas meridionalis went extinct in Europe. Professor Ramorino showed bones of extinct red deer and rhinoceros exhibiting what he felt were human incisions at a conference of the Italian Society of Natural Sciences in Spezia in September 1865. These bones, like the Val d'Arno bones discovered at San Giovanni near Siena, were dated to the Astian stage of the Pliocene period. De Morlaix, with his usual pessimism, suggested that the scars were most likely formed by the tools used by the workmen who retrieved the bones. San Valentino. At an 1876 meeting of the Geological Committee of Italy, M.A. Ferretti displayed a fossil animal bone that bore traces of work of the hand of man so evident as to exclude all doubt to the contrary. This elephant or rhinoceros bone was discovered in San Valentino, Italy, and firmly placed in the Astian or late Pliocene layers. The fossil bone has a nearly perfect spherical hole at its widest point, which is quite interesting. Mollusks and crustaceans, according to Ferretti, did not cause the hole in the bone. Ferretti presented to the committee another bone that exhibited signs of human labor the following year. It was discovered in San Rufino in the Astian-aged blue Pliocene clay. At one end of the bone, it appears to have been partially sawn through, then shattered. G. Bellucci, of the Italian Society for Anthropology and Geology, brought new discoveries in San Valentino and Castello delle Forme, near Perugia, which he thought showed the existence of man in the Pliocene. At a scholarly meeting in 1880, he displayed animal bones with cuts and impact marks from stones. Tools, carbonized bones, and flint flakes were among them. All were discovered in the Lacustine Pliocene clays, with a fauna similar to that of the Val d'Arno. Monte Aperto, Italy. Fossil whale bones with cut marks were discovered in Italy during the last half of the 19th century. G. Capellini, professor of geology at the University of Bologna, revealed in November 1875 that the marks were produced by flint tools when the bone was still fresh. This interpretation was backed up by many other European scientists. The signs found on the bones of an extinct Balenotis whale were dug up by Capellini himself in Pliocene strata around Siena, including Poggiarone area, while others had actually come from existent museum collections. Capelli observed, "I am convinced that the animal ran aground in sand and rested on its left side, and that the right side was thus exposed to direct attack of humans, as is demonstrated by the places in which the marks are found on the bones." The fact that cut marks on the bones, on the external side of the ribs, which are the common outcome of butchering operations, were only found on one side of a nearly complete whale skeleton added to the weight of evidence in favor of human intervention. At the International Congress of Prehistoric Anthropology and Archaeology, Capellini reported, "In the vicinity of the remains, I collected some flint blades lost in the actual beach deposits. With those same flint implements, I was able to reproduce on a fresh cetacean bones the exact same marks found on the fossil whale bones." The fact that just one side of the whale's bones was marked likely rules out any pure geological explanation, as well as things like shark activity in the deep sea. Furthermore, the cut marks on these prehistoric whale bones are nearly identical to those on these current whale bones. It is worth noting Capellini also mentioned that human skeletal remains had been discovered in the same area of Savona, Italy. At the conclusion of Capellini's report, spirited discussion ensued among the attendees. Sir John Evans, for one, voiced his displeasure. Others, like Paul Broca, Secretary General of the Paris-based Anthropological Society and a pioneer in the field of bone physiology during his lifetime, concurred with Capellini that the signs of the whale bones were produced by people. He ruled out the possibility that the marks were caused by sharks, claiming that they looked like they were made by a keen blade. According to Armand de Quatrefages, in 1884, the Monte Aperto Balanotus bones were carved by sharp flint weapons carried by a human hand. However one may try using various methods and implements and other materials, one will fail to duplicate the marks. Only a sharp flint instrument, moved at an angle with a lot of pressure, could do it. S. Lang, writing in 1893, nicely articulated the entire situation. The cuts are in regular curves, almost semicircular, such as the sweep of the hand could alone have caused, and they invariably show a clean-cut surface on the outer or convex side to which the pressure of a sharp edge was applied, with a rough or abraded surface on the inner side of the cut. Microscopic examination confirms this conclusion and leaves no doubt that they must have been made by such an instrument as a flint knife, held obliquely and pressed against the bone, in a fresh state, with considerable force, just as a savage would do in hacking the flesh off of a stranded whale. Cuts exactly similar can now be made on fresh bones by such flint knives, and in no other known or conceivable way. It seems, therefore, more like obstinate prepossession than scientific skepticism to deny the existence of tertiary man, if it rested only on this single instance. Binford, a more modern authority, stated, "There is little chance that an observer of modified bone could confuse the marks, inflicted during dismembering or filleting by man using tools, with the action of animals." The Dardanelles, Turkey. Frank Calvert discovered a Deinotherium bone with carved animal motifs in a Miocene strata in Turkey, near the Dardanelles, in 1874. He stated, "I have found, not far from the site of the engraved bone, a flint flake and some bones of animals, fractured longitudinally, obviously by the hand of man for the purpose of extracting the marrow, according to the practice of all primitive races." According to modern experts, the elephant-like Deinotherium lived in Europe from the late Pliocene to the early Miocene. Calvert's date of the Dardanelle location as Miocene may thus have been accurate. The Miocene is now thought to have occurred between 5 to 25 million years ago. Only ape-like hominids are thought to have lived during that time period, according to the prevalent theory. Even late Pliocene dating of 2 to 3 million years for the Dardanelles site would be too early for the objects discovered there. Anatomically modern people, the last 40,000 years, are supposed to have carved the carvings found on the Deinotherium bone. In La Préhistorique, while not disputing the age of the Dardanelle formation, de Morlaix raised suspicions about the discovery, saying the existence of the carved bone, purposefully fractured bones, and a flint flake tool, all at the same time, was almost too perfect. This is just amazing, as when speaking of Saint-Prest, de Morlaix had argued that there were no stone tools or other traces of a human presence at the site of the incised bones. But when all the required artifacts recovered alongside the carved bone, de Morlaix declared it too perfect, implying Calvert had cheated. Calvert had conducted several important investigations in the Dardanelles region and played a role in the discovery of Troy as well. However, David Trail, classics professor at the University of California, Davis, provides the following facts about the discoverer. Calvert was the most distinguished of a family of British expatriates, prominent in the Dardanelles, he had good knowledge of geology and paleontology. He was, as far as I've been able to determine from extensive reading of his correspondence, scrupulously truthful. Pikermi, Greece. Fossil-rich late Miocene Tertonian layer was discovered and described by French scientist Albert Gaudry near the plain of Marathon in Greece. During an 1872 meeting in Brussels, the noted scientist Baron Franz von Drucker revealed to the International Congress of Prehistoric Anthropology and Archaeology that these fractured bones from Pikermi demonstrated the existence of humans in this early time. Even now, the Pikermi site is still dated to the late Miocene, making the bones at least 5 million years old, according to modern authorities. Beginning his research at the Athens Museum, von Drucker studied a number of different bones from the Pikermi site. He discovered 34 hipparian and antelope jaw parts, as well as 19 tibia and 22 other bone fragments from huge mammals like rhinoceros. All of them had evidence of systemic shattering in order to harvest marrow. Noticing hundreds of bone flakes that had been fractured in the same way, it was von Drucker's feeling that they all had more or less distinct traces of blows from hard objects. He also saw dozens of hipparian, antelope crania with the upper jaw removed methodically to extract the brain. These fractured edges were razor sharp, indicating human breakage rather than animal chewing or geological stresses. Von Drucker then continued his inquiry at the Pikermi site himself. He discovered dozens of hipparian and antelope bone fragments during his first excavation, with around a fourth of them showing signs of purposeful breaking. Finding among the bones a stone of the size that could readily be held in the hand, pointed on one side and perfectly adapted to making kinds of marks observed on the bones. Aged bones indirectly hint beyond themselves to occurrences in the distant and inaccessible past. Issues regarding their age are surely bound to arise, and in many cases, the information presented, although intriguing, is often insufficient to allow disputes to be resolved definitively.